Okay, now let's look at this rig tab. Now I'm going to select animation type humanoid, and then I'm just going to check this optimize game objects and click on apply. And now I'm going to tell you what a rig is. Well, I lied. I'm not really going to tell you in detail what is a rig. I'll just tell you for today that you can think of a rig as the character skeleton. Now don't go writing that in any scientific papers because that's incorrect, but it gives us enough intuition for today at least. So let's just say that the rig is a character skeleton. And what we want to do is a process called rigging, which means taking part of the skin and rigging it or mapping it to a humanoid skeleton. Now Unity will do that for us with this avatar definition create from this model value. And when I clicked on apply, that's what it did, and it created this file. Well, it actually created more data in the FBX file. So we have this player avatar, and we can actually look at that rig in configure avatar, and now we get something that seems quite intimidating, but let's go over it quickly but sufficiently. Now I'm just gonna reorient myself in space here. Okay. Notice that characters should always be facing the positive Z axis. Okay, and let's look in here. So we have our player clone. This is a game object, and we have beta joints. So this is that geometry that we saw earlier, so the joint geometry, and the surface. You can also think of these two objects as the skin. And now I can't really move the skin. So let's say I want to transform it here. I can't move the joints, and I can't move the surface because these skins are rigged onto the skeleton. So if I want to move them, I have to move the skeleton. And the skeleton is basically this child game object of the player game object called Mixamo Rig. And the center of mass or gravity is typically at the hips, because if I move the hips, everything moves along with it. So we can see that every single bone in this rig is connected to the hips. Now we can see that we have the spine connected to the hips, as well as the left leg and the right leg. So I can move the right leg, for example, and everything will go with it. I can also apply a rotation on it. Now Unity is pretty cool because it tells me, hey, watch out, your character is not in T-pose, and that's not what we want when we're doing the rigging. So I'm going to cancel that rotation. And I can also fool around with the spine if I want to. Like this. But again, we're breaking the T-pose. Okay. Now, we can go in this right panel here in the inspector and see which game object is connected to each joint in the skeleton. This is why I chose the X spot, because we can really see clearly the joints and the rigging happening. If we use a more decorative character, it's not as ideal when we're learning. Okay, so I can see like this here, that's the right hand part of the rig. Here I can see that's the left hand. If I click this, okay, so that's the head. And I can go more in detail here. So on the head I have the neck. The neck I have this game object, and the head, again I have this. We don't have anything for the eyes, nor for the jaw, because this is a much simpler model that we downloaded. But if we had something more complex, we might actually have more information for these aspects of rigging. In the left hand, we have a lot of data, which is really cool. So this is our left hand, and in the left hand, we have all of these things. So I'm not really well versed in what a distal is versus an intermediate and a proximal, but it's there. So really cool. We can get some really precise hand gestures and hand movement in our characters. So I'm going to go back here I'm not going to apply any of the transformations. And now let's start actually animating something in the scene.